Good morning, everyone. I will go ahead and call the, what month are we in? Hello. Yes, hold on one second. Okay. Sorry. We will call the meeting for March 14th, 2024 to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I get verification of legal notice, please?
Yes, everything has been properly noticed.
We will next we'll move forward with our consent agenda, looking to approve the minutes from February 22nd, 2022. If there's any discussion regarding those, or go ahead and...
Madam Chair, I'll be abstaining from that vote. I was not present for that hearing.
Thank you. So looking to the remaining commissioners for motion on the minutes from the February 22nd, 2022 meeting.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the February 22nd, 2024 minutes.
Okay, motion and
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for that. Next, we will have public input. This is an opportunity for anyone wishing to speak on anything that's not on the agenda today. So this would be something that you'd like to bring to the commission's attention. This would be your time to do so. And do we have anybody in the Zoom room for citizens public input? Okay. One more glance around. No one wishing to speak. We will go ahead and close public input. Our first timed item is for 9:05, and I'm showing a time of 9:04. So as soon as the clock ticks over, we will bring up our first timed item. You want to do the hearing first? Okay, time now is 9:05. Our first time item is a presentation and overview of Lake County 2050 General Plan and Local Area Plan updates.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mireya Turner, Director of Community Development. I am doing my best to withhold all of my massive enthusiasm and excitement for this item to present to you today, so I maintain a little bit of professionalism. We are very, very proud to present to you information about the Lake County 2050 project, which is an update of all 8 local area plans for the county as well as the county general plan. We are very gratified and excited to have retained such a qualified partner for a contractor. Placework staff, which will be, I'll hand over this presentation to them soon, are a very well qualified firm. They've already performed, we took them on a tour all over Lake County, and so they are already gaining a good familiarity as well as building relationships that will enable us to have a successful launch of all of our plan updates, as well as maintaining staff resources that have come alongside us already and are helping us to achieve our timelines and goals. I think I may have explained to you before that our local area plans are all aged, dating from 1988-89 to 2010. They are community visioning documents, just as the general plan is the community visioning document for overarching of the county. The local area plans are the community's vision for that planning area for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And so we sort of have tried something that I don't see very often, but PlaceWorks was willing to go with us, and that was to actually focus more on the local area plans and make those our robust documents that then inform the general plan. And the reason for doing this is you can't have synchrony between the county plan and the community plans without updating those community plans first. And so we're attempting to, looks like we're doing it all at the same time, but what we're doing is really focusing on those local area plans, building those to be robust documents that will then inform also the overall general plan. So I don't want to, I don't, too much spoiler alert here going on, but I will hand it over to PlaceWorks staff, and then when it comes back, I want to, I think Shannon's here, she wants to take a moment to help, or to introduce some of our other support staff. We have some locals from an exciting program that are going to just be an instrumental part of our community outreach plan. Okay, I'll stop now, and I will hand it over to PlaceWorks staff.
Great, thank you, Director Turner, and thank you, members of the Planning Commission, for your time today. I'm going to share my screen and bring up the presentation. Okay. So my name is Tanya Sundberg, and I am with PlaceWorks. We're the lead consultant on this Lake County 2050 project. And with me today, I have Jacqueline Protzman-Rohr, also from PlaceWorks, part of our team. She and I are going to be tag teaming on different parts of this presentation, so you'll hear from both of us. So to start, this slide presents a broad overview of the project that we're calling Lake County 2050. It includes a comprehensive update to the 2008 general plan and all 8 of the county's local area plans, which were adopted at various times between 1988 and 2010. It also includes environmental review of these updates, which is required by the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, and that will include preparation of an environmental impact report. And finally, the project includes concurrent preparation of a climate adaptation plan, and that will provide a countywide framework to adapt to climate change. So I'm going to start with some background information about these plans that we're updating, including some information about the state legislative requirements that we need to keep in mind for this update. And in some cases, there's some new state requirements that we need to address as part of the update, and we'll highlight those as well. So to start with the general plan is a long-term plan. In this case, we're looking out to the year 2050. And it guides county decisions on a variety of topics. One important note is that it only governs decision-making in the unincorporated parts of the county. So the general plan is often referred to as the constitution that guides land use and development in a jurisdiction. And it's called a constitution because it provides an overarching framework for all of the more detailed regulations and guidelines and other plans that would affect how development can happen. General plans typically first lay out a community identified vision for the future, and then it presents goals, policies, and actions that will support the jurisdiction in achieving that vision. So it's important for the general plan to provide consistent direction so that everyone can have some certainty about the future of the project. And because the general plan addresses so many different topics, it requires really careful thinking and real community input and direction to balance growth and conservation and quality of life in a way that supports the community's vision. And finally, another role of the general plan is to document baseline environmental conditions so that everyone has a shared understanding of our starting point for the plan. So there are 8 topics that state law requires the general plan to address, and those are typically in the form of individual elements or chapters. But local agencies can cover other topics to meet local needs, and there also aren't any requirements about how those topics are organized. They can be standalone chapters, or they could be combined with other topics. So your current Lake County General Plan covers the state mandated topics as well as some optional topics. So it covers the required topics of land use, open space, circulation, housing, conservation, safety, and noise. We will talk a little bit more about environmental justice later. This is a new topic that's required by state law, not currently in your general plan. And then the current general plan also addresses some optional topics not required by state law, and that's public facilities and services, geothermal resources, and the aggregate resources management plan. It does also pull out agricultural resources and water resources as standalone separate chapters, although those topics generally are encompassed by the required open space and conservation topics. And I also want to point out that the housing element is a part of the general plan, but it needs to be updated on a more frequent schedule than the rest of the general plan. So often what happens with the comprehensive general plan update is that the housing element is pulled out and updated separately. And that's what we're doing in this case for this project. But there's a lot of overlap with housing. And so these other elements will still touch on housing, but it won't be the kind of state required housing element. And then similarly, the aggregate resources management plan is currently provided as an appendix to the general plan. That will be updated separately from the rest of this comprehensive general plan update. And a final note on these general plan contents, it's really important for the general plan to be internally consistent and for other county plans to be consistent with it so that it can effectively function in this role as a constitution for conservation, growth, and development, and so that community members have certainty about these aspects of their community's future. So land use is one of the topics that receives the most attention in the general plan, and that's in part because of this map, the general plan land use map that's required to be included. This map identifies what type of land use can be developed on each parcel of land within the unincorporated county, and it provides some basic parameters for how that land use can be developed. So for residential designations, it will show, identify a maximum density, which is the maximum number of homes per acre that are allowed. And then for non-residential designations like commercial or industrial uses, it identifies the allowed intensity of development, which is typically established by a limit on the ratio of floor area to lot size. And then the general plan also establishes a framework for the more detailed zoning map that regulates land use and development in the county at a more fine-grained scale. And that's probably more familiar to most Lake County residents. So I'm going to turn over now to Jacqueline, who's going to talk about the health and safety element.
Thanks, Tanya. So to start off, what is a safety element? So as Tanya was saying, it's one of the mandatory elements of the general plan, and its focus is on natural and human-caused hazards in Lake County, with the ultimate goal of protecting the county, including residents, businesses, infrastructure, and the environment from natural disasters and other hazards. So these physical hazards in Lake County include flooding, severe weather, emergency evacuations, wildfire, and other hazards that may worsen due to climate change, such as drought and extreme heat. Next slide. So the health and safety element is just one part of Lake County's overall approach to protecting the community against hazards, and it also integrates with several other county documents to do this. The health and safety element is a high-level, broad document that discusses the county's comprehensive public safety approach. There's also the local hazard mitigation plan, which is a more short-term, detailed plan that focuses on specific actions, and the emergency operations plan, which is the county's internal plan for emergency response and recovery. And this project will also include the development of a climate adaptation plan, which will focus on increasing the resilience of human-built and natural systems to climate change hazards. So the safety element will integrate information from each of these plans and tie into them as appropriate to help create a cohesive safety approach. And other benefits of updating the health and safety element are to ensure consistency with the other general plan elements and other agency plans, comply with state regulations, and improve eligibility for grant funding to implement resiliency and hazard mitigation projects. Next slide. So since the previous update to the general plan, several new laws related to safety elements have come into effect. These updates to the government code increase requirements for flood and wildfire sections to identify responsible agencies and ensure coordination among these agencies, as well as minimize risk for new buildings and essential facilities. There's also a focus on climate change adaptation and resilience through SB 379, requiring safety elements to prepare vulnerability assessments that identify risks to hazards, as well as developing goals, policies and implementation actions to build resilience comprehensively in the community. SB 2140 allows for the incorporation of the local hazard mitigation plan, which makes the county potentially eligible for additional disaster relief funds. And then 3 of the new laws, SB 99, AB 747, and AB 1409, focus on evacuation, requiring the identification of evacuation route and location, capacity and safety, as well as evacuation constrained residential areas. Next slide. So the vulnerability assessment, or climate change vulnerability assessment, is the main analysis that will be conducted as part of the health and safety element. The assessment will evaluate how people and key community assets such as buildings, infrastructure, and economic systems may be affected by climate change hazards, and also the degree to which they're vulnerable. The vulnerability assessment will also assess the availability of existing policies, programs, and resources to help people prepare for, respond to, and recover from impacts. And the results of this analysis will include a prioritized set of vulnerabilities that will then inform the resilience and adaptation policies in the health and safety element, and ultimately the climate adaptation plan as well. And in Lake County, the expected local climate change impacts include increases in intense rainfall leading to flooding, more frequent extreme heat events, an increase in the frequency and length of drought conditions, and more frequent and intense regional wildfires. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Tanya to go over environmental justice.
Thanks, Jacqueline. So this is the last state required topic that we're going to highlight here. This is the environmental justice element. As I said earlier, this is an entirely new topic that state law now requires general plans to address. That state law was passed in 2016, so it's not currently in your existing general plan. So first, just want to set some context here of what we mean by environmental justice. There is no single correct definition of environmental justice. It's defined in state law, as you can see here on the slide. Others may have different definitions. I think for many of us, it's as simple as thinking about it as the basic right of everyone to live and work, go to school, play, and worship in a healthy and clean environment. The state law recognizes that low-income communities, communities of color, and tribal communities have experienced a combination of historic discrimination, negligence, and political and economic disempowerment. And the result is that today they're struggling with both a disproportionate burden of pollution and health impacts, as well as disproportionate social and economic disadvantages like poverty or housing instability. So communities in California who are facing that combination of challenges are termed disadvantaged communities in this law. And the focus of the general plan environmental justice element is to improve conditions in these communities. So the state law that led to this new requirement is called Senate Bill 1000. It identifies a specific list of environmental justice issues that need to be addressed in the environmental justice element, although the county doesn't really need to be limited to those issues. But to comply with these new legislative requirements for any disadvantaged communities that are identified in the county, we need to reduce pollution exposure, including from industry and from cars and trucks, provide public facilities, and that can be as basic as sidewalks and streetlights, or larger facilities like sewer and water and flood control facilities. We'll need policy guidance to promote access to food that's affordable and nutritionally adequate, and that could be through grocery stores, offering healthier options within existing convenience stores, expanding farmers markets, or adding new community gardens. We'll need policy guidance to promote safe and sanitary homes, which means providing housing that's safe from toxics like lead-based paint, asbestos, and mold, as well as from pests and rodents and overcrowding. We'll also need to promote physical activity, making sure that it's safe for people to walk or bike, and that neighborhoods have well-maintained parks and connections to surrounding open space. And then we also understand that as we lift up neighborhoods that were historically neglected and underserved, we also need to be aware of the potential for displacement. So as we think about making these changes, we know it can't be a top-down process. We need to emphasize equity in policy making and involve the affected communities in the decisions that impact their lives. And then finally, the law directs us to make choices that prioritize improvements in those communities that have historically faced the greatest impacts. So I want to move on now briefly to the local area plans. Local area plans are also long-range plans, but they are for a more localized area, so they can provide policy and design guidance that's attuned to the local area. The local area plans operate under the umbrella of the general plan, so they need to be consistent with the general plan, and they should complement the other local area plans. And as part of this role, they serve as a more precise supplement to the general plan for the local area. And as part of this, they also provide land use and zoning information. So as Director Turner mentioned at the outset, as part of this update, we are looking at adjusting the organization of the general plan and local area plans, in particular to streamline the content and avoid redundancy. So the plan is for many of the required general plan topics to be covered in the local area plan because they make sense to be planned at a more localized scale. So that includes land use, circulation, open space conservation and recreation, environmental justice, and public facilities and services. And then the remaining topics we plan to cover at the countywide scale in the general plan countywide elements. Those include the health and safety element, noise, geothermal, agricultural resources, water resources, housing, and the aggregate resources management plan. All right, I'm going to turn it back to Jacqueline to talk about the environmental review.
Tanya, so the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, is the state's primary environmental protection and disclosure law. For the general plan update, we'll be preparing an environmental impact report, or EIR, which will be an informational document for decision-making for the overall project. The EIR will disclose information about the effects the proposed project will have on the environment, identify mitigation measures to reduce significant impacts, and describe feasible alternatives to the proposed project that are designed to reduce any environmental impacts. The EIR must be certified prior to project approval, and this process does provide for 2 separate public comment periods, one during the scoping phase to tell us what to analyze, which occurred in January and February of this year, and the second will be during the public review phase of the draft EIR to comment on the environmental analysis itself. Next slide. So this project will also include a climate adaptation plan, which will be on a slightly different timeline than the other components of the general plan in the EIR. The climate adaptation plan is part of the adaptation planning grant Lake County received. This plan will build off of the work conducted for the health and safety element through the climate vulnerability assessment and expand beyond that to include additional community outreach and engagement to develop an adaptation plan and an implementation framework for increasing resilience of residents, visitors, built systems, and natural resources to hazards that may worsen due to climate change. And I will hand it back over to Tanya to go over the timeline.
Great, thanks, Jacqueline. So yeah, we have a slide here that gives you a broad overview of the process. It is a 3-year process that we're planning. You can see it brings us through fall 2026. We did kick off the project last fall. Since then, we've been doing background research and setting up all of our work for the initial community outreach and engagement that we're starting now. So we're also just now kicking off that climate adaptation plan that Jacqueline just presented. That work is expected to be complete in fall 2025. So the countywide elements update will move relatively quickly with draft elements anticipated in fall of this year. Then the local area plans update will take a little longer. This spring, right now, we're initiating the local area plan updates. We'll be working on alternative approaches to policy and land use guidance in those plans through this fall. And then the work to prepare the full drafts of those local area plans will continue through spring 2025. And at that point, when those are complete in draft form, we'll begin in earnest the environmental impact report evaluation, which will take us to publication of the draft EIR anticipated in spring 2026. And then we anticipate public review and adoption concluding in fall 2026. So that's the project in a nutshell, even there's a lot to it. So last, before we wrap up, I want to also highlight this initial task. One of our initial tasks for the project was to prepare the community engagement plan. It lays out how the general plan and local area plans update process will reach the Lake County community. And the draft of this plan was included as an attachment to your staff report. And I have just a couple slides to present an overview. So the community engagement plan starts by identifying the engagement objectives. There's an overarching objective to hear from a wide range of community members to shape the plans for the future. But more specifically, the plan aims to ensure community members understand the project and why it's important, promote robust and diverse community participation that is representative of all perspectives, and build trust in the process and support for the general plan and local area plans. And we know, too, that historically certain groups have been underrepresented in planning-related decision-making processes. So the plan also lays out how we'll make intentional efforts to reach and include these groups. And those target groups for this engagement plan are low-income households, Native American tribes, non-English speakers, older residents, younger residents, and renters. So the plan also lays out the main activities that we'll undertake to engage the community. That includes a General Plan Advisory Committee, or a GPAC. That committee was recently established. It consists of community stakeholders from a variety of perspectives, and they'll be guiding the process and acting as ambassadors to the community. Also, those meetings will be open to the public with opportunities for public comment, similar to these Planning Commission meetings. And actually, our first GPAC meeting is scheduled for tomorrow at noon. We'll be walking through a similar introduction to the project that we're covering today. And then we'll be meeting with the GPAC at other phases of the project. We'll also be holding community-focused workshops for the local area plans update process. Those will be held as rounds of meetings. So we'll have one meeting in each of the 8 local area planning areas for each series. So, those meetings may be part of a meeting of the established advisory body for the planning area. And that will be the case for our first series of local area plan community meetings, which we're in the process of scheduling and be sharing some information about those meetings very soon. We'll also be holding some meetings with specific stakeholders on individual topics, and those are still to be determined at this time. And finally, I'm really excited to announce that our project website is now live, ready to use. It's lakecounty2050.org. Please check it out and share that link with your friends and your neighbors and your family. You can learn about more information about the project, keep tabs on upcoming meetings and events. And there's also a survey right now available that we encourage people to fill out to help us to start to learn more about key issues for the update. So last, just a summary of next steps. As I said earlier, this is a 3-year process, so there's a lot ahead. But in the near term, we really want to encourage you to help spread the word by sharing out this website, lakecounty2050.org, and encourage people to fill out the survey and be on the lookout soon for information about an upcoming community workshop series in April. We will have a similar introduction to the project for the Board of Supervisors that will happen on March 26th at 9:30. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, we also have our first GPAC meeting tomorrow at noon. I don't think we have the date yet when we first put together this presentation. So a new update there. So this concludes our presentation, and I welcome your questions.
Excellent. Thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate that, ladies. I know I jotted down a few notes. I will turn it over to possibly Commissioner Fields. Do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah,
for
I just had
a
quick question. What is aggregate resources plan? Or does aggregate refer to resources or to the plan?
The aggregate resource management plan is the guidelines that regulate extraction of our natural resources from our creeks and quarries.
Great, thank you. And I assume the 2050 refers to some kind of target date? Is that,
the general plan is required by state law to be updated every 20 years. So it's actually 2028 is our deadline for our general plan, and it will be valid through 2048. But 2050 really rolls off the tongue a lot better.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Thanks.
that works. Any other questions from the commissioners or comments?
Quick question, weren't the GPAC members approved or appointed by the board on Tuesday?
Yes, in the last two Board of Supervisors meeting, or three, they have appointed 14 out of the 15 possible positions for the General Plan Advisory Committee. We still have one remaining vacancy for a tribal representative, so we're hoping to fill that as well.
How will members of the GPAC interact with members of the local area plan committees?
At this point, we do not have a local area plan committee structure set up. So it's kind of been on my mind, but it's not part of our overall plan. And so we are relying on the members of the GPAC to communicate with the people that they know in their communities.
And what can we as planning commissioners and representatives of our districts do in support of getting the word out or making ourselves available to, at least get people the information that they need? What can we do?
That is a beautiful question. So because the planning commissioners come from each district, you have your own social networks within those districts, and we would strongly encourage and really appreciate all of your efforts just to get the word out. I've been attending pretty much every community group meeting that'll invite me to speak about it, but with us working as a team, you'll reach people that I could never do by myself, and so it just helps to get the word out. One thing they didn't mention is we're making business cards right now that have the Lake County 2050 website as well as a QR code, which I will probably get Ruby a supply, so we'll have some at the Planning Commission meetings if you'd like to just take a few of them. And so when you're having conversations around the neighborhood, encourage people to check out that website where we'll have surveys going on.
I would think the area town halls would be a perfect venue for spreading the word and promoting.
Indeed, and that is why we chose the municipal area councils or advisory councils as our launch points for all 8 kickoff meetings for the area plan updates.
Excellent.
So I have a recommendation, and I didn't hear this mentioned. How does the general plan specifically plan to engage tribal communities? I know one of the issues always we need to understand is the tribal perspective of land use is different than how we see it and how this body sees it. And in order for there to be the safety in expressing that, that's not going to get done outside of in these community meetings. And so I would encourage the group to contact tribes to host a meeting within their community to gather some of that information. Because what comes to mind is depending on where the meetings are, some of our community won't go into some of those communities just based off of feelings, the vibes of that community, and not feeling a part of those communities. And so that's just a recommendation. I don't know where these meetings are going to be scheduled at, what the opportunity to gather that information from the underrepresented audiences. So that'd be a recommendation to this group.
And then just to kind of echo what my colleague is saying, I'm not sure if we have someone designated as a good Spanish-speaking representative, either from the county or someone who's going to be touching on those smaller community groups, I guess is what it is, and then collaboratively getting all those groups and then distributing the information that way.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Chair, we do appreciate that it is more challenging to reach members of our community who may not be into going into all the, to these regularly scheduled advisory committee meetings. And so reaching out to tribes as well as people who don't speak English as a primary language is a priority and is part of our outreach plan. I can speak for myself saying I would be thrilled. I'll go anywhere. If they're going to invite me, if a tribe would be interested in hearing what's going on, I will make time to go anywhere they want me to go, because you can't have a community vision without hearing from the people in your community.
That's, I think, just kind of getting the conversation started and the wheels turning, I think we could really put our minds together. And my, my thought goes out to the younger community, the people that are possibly looking to stay here and raise their families and, be here till 2050. So a lot of different aspects to think of, Director. There's a lot of moving parts.
Well, and one of the unique parts about Lake County is that we have 8 sovereign nations. It's like having 8 Liechtensteins within the county. And so it's very important that even though tribal land is not within county jurisdiction, that we deal with each sovereign nation with the respect that is required and appropriate, and still get the input, because historically it's not like the rancheria or the tribal lands were always confined like that. And so it's a wealth, I think, and an asset to have that viewpoint incorporated into our community vision going forward.
Excellent.
I have one additional, not very well formulated question in my head, and that's about environmental justice. And is that forward-looking in the sense that we are identifying areas where that might be a potential issue, and wouldn't there have to be some kind of scientific study or evidence in order to define those kinds of areas? And how would something like the EPA Superfund project on the sulfur mine cleanup, for example, tie into a general plan view of environmental justice?
I'm going to answer partially and then defer to PlaceWorks staff. Yes, environmental justice is one of the newer areas of interest within a community visioning plan. And there are ways to determine vulnerable areas in our plan so that we can identify those and work to avoid creating the negative impacts that happen to those areas. But I'm going to defer to PlaceWorks for a little bit of the science on that.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. It is a new area, but there is some guidance in state law on how we identify potential disadvantaged areas or vulnerable communities that we need to support through the environmental justice element. There's a definition of disadvantaged community in the state law, but it does suggest specific data sources that you can consult to identify them. But it also allows for local agencies to have, to consider and bring in data that makes sense for that local region. And so there's a lot of deference given to local agencies to make the determination of where these communities are located. And so we'll go through a process of consulting the data that's available, work up some preliminary identification of areas with county staff. But then there's a really critical part of reviewing this with the community, because the community lives and experiences these issues in their day-to-day lives. And so there's a really important ground truthing and vetting process that will need to happen. So there is some science behind it, but it's also really driven by the community conversations that we have.
Thank you. Commissioner Field?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I think that a lot of this should happen at the town halls, when we formed the Kelseyville area town hall, we kind of cast broad a net. We reached out to people who were of different political persuasions. We had 3 native Spanish speakers. We had 2 members of the Pomo tribe. We had farmers. We had law enforcement. We had young people. We had elderly people. And I think that's where it happens. It's just a comment.
Thank you. So since we're on discussion, I will go ahead and open this up for any public comment, and we do have someone at the podium. Please be sure to state your first and last name.
Good morning. Is this on? Shannon Walker-Smith, Deputy Community Development Administrator. I want to talk just a little bit more about the community engagement plan, since that seems to be a lot of the questions, and it's a valid question. Community engagement has been the cornerstone of our thinking on this project from the get-go, so we appreciate all the feedback, comments, questions about how we intend to do that. And the truth is, it's a multi-prong approach. So we agree with you, Commissioner Fields, that a lot of this work is going to be done out at these established groups that have already worked on diversity and to have a wide range of voices. And yet we also know that that excludes the voice of many community residents. So we are going to partner with the CERC AmeriCorps team that is being managed by NCO and Tammy Alexei, and they are going to be kind of our like broader community engagement arm. They have lots of community events that they'll be attending this spring, and they will be working that survey. So our goal, we have a goal of the AmeriCorps team collecting 1,000 surveys out in the community that are kind of separate from the input that we'll gather at these community meetings and through the GPAC and other stakeholder meetings. So it is our goal to just get a very wide range of input for this project. So I'd like to bring up Tammy and the AmeriCorps team for just a moment. Come on up, ladies.
Good morning.
Tammy, I just want to give you a
Yeah.
second to
We don't bite. It's okay.
talk about, talk about the CERC team.
You're fine. Good morning. Hi.
I'm Tammy Alexei with Northwest Opportunities, and ironically, it is All AmeriCorps Week. We had a proclamation last week for these ladies.
Oh, congrats.
And so, yeah, they have given 10 months of their life to serve, and they're local residents of Lake County that have decided to make this commitment. CERC actually stands for California Emergency Response Corps, and I would just like to introduce them so that you know them also. Cool. And yeah, we're really excited about having this collaboration and moving this project forward. So we have Amanda Sampson. She's a first-year member. And we have, I want to say Dawn Kennedy, but I don't know that I'm going to use the right last name, so I'm going to check it. She is a first-year member also. Amanda Collins, who is our second-year member. And then Amy Zingong, who is also a first-year member. See, I'm just tearing up the names. And usually people do that to me, so I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, and we're just really excited to be here and be part of this project.
Excellent. We appreciate you guys taking the time and the commitment that it takes to get this done. So thank you so much.
If I could just follow up a little bit on that. Historically, we've always done like a local area plan, one at a time, over a number of years, or the general plan. And that's because they're time intensive and very large projects. So to launch to be updating the general plan and all 8 area plans at the same time is an extremely ambitious project that will definitely require a lot of staff resources. We have activities at like all 8 area plans launching within the first 2.5 weeks in mid-April. That's going to require 6 to 9 people, staff on site to help facilitate breakout sessions and keep the meeting moving and really gather as much data as we can. And so just to rely on even all of the team from CDD is very draining. So I'm so thankful that we've got this great team of local women interested in helping us to gather that data, because who better to reach locals than locals? Yeah. So we're real excited.
Good job. Excellent.
May I ask one more general question, Madam Chair?
I think I can allow that,
Thank you.
Commissioner Hess.
Director Turner, even after having done this for about 8 years, I still always get a feeling about fuzziness between what the community expects its local area plan to control and what is controlled by the general plan. At the end of the day, it's the general plan that prevails, but the local area plans that inform what the general plan will then reflect. I encounter this all the time. People will stop me and say, well, in our area plan, we don't want this, but it's still happening because the general plan prevails. And just, if there was a better public understanding of that relationship, I think it would help.
Ideally, the local area plans are an extension or are synchronized or are resonating through the general plan. They are sort of like mini general plans, and so they should be synchronous. However, what you're describing is what I would expect to see when our local area plans become outdated, when our communities change and shift in response to things that are happening, be it environmental, economic, different things. You know, communities are vibrant and they're not just static. You can't do a snapshot of community visioning and then expect it to be relevant the next 20 years. So our effort right now, and one of the benefits I think of doing this all at the same time, is that the threads of each community that are specific to that community are going to resonate and be reflected in the general plan. For future land use permits, once all of these plans are developed and finalized, we, in planning, we use the general plan, the local area plan, and the zoning ordinance, which is the legal mechanism that regulates and maintains and fulfills the community vision from the plans. And so ideally, we should not have a lot of conflict between those, and that will be part of our goal.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, Director Turner. I do have public input, or excuse me, public comment still open, so you're welcome to approach the podium. Yeah, and just please be sure to state your first and last name for the record.
Yeah, Roberta Lyons, Lower Lake.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I'm confused about the area plans and the general plan. You said that the area plans would make up, or serve as a outline, I guess, for the general plan, but so there's not going to, does every community that's going to have an area plan, do they all have the municipal advisory committees, or I'm not sure what you call? I know I'm familiar with the one in Middletown. Does Lower Lake have one?
Not exactly. Lower Lake has the Lower Lake Community Action Group,
Right,
and we're
I know,
using them
yeah.
as the launch point.
So in other words, you're going to rely on just different types of groups that are vocal in the community to.
Great question. And although we are launching our meetings through these already established community groups, that's not where we're limited to. We're going to have 3 community groups per planning area. And so the second and third meeting locations have not yet been determined, but the goal is to have a broader, to always be increasing our community outreach so that we're not limited to just the municipal advisory council people and those who would attend those meetings.
Okay, so there's not going to be a separate, like a GPAC, only a mini GPAC for each community. That is not the way this is going to work. It's
Correct.
going to work by the main GPAC getting these suggestions from whatever, main group.
At this point, correct, that is correct. Should the board decide to request that we have many, let's call them local area plan advisory committees, should the board direct us or should we change our plans going forward, then we would pivot to accommodate that local group as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. I still have public comment open if anybody has any questions regarding the GPAC or the general plan update or anything for PlaceWorks for staff. Any hands in the Zoom room?
Zoom participant Larry, go ahead and state your first and last name, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning, Larry Galuppi, Middletown Rancheria.
Good morning, Larry. We can hear you.
Perfect. So how does a tribal member like myself apply for the, is it a position on the GPAC, or was there an announcement, or did I happen to miss something?
Thank you, Larry. Great question. The vacancy on the General Plan Advisory Committee could be filled by clicking on an application online on our Lake County website, or by reaching out to Lake County Administrative Office at 707-263-2580. That's 707-263-2580. 2580, they would be happy to send you an application. It's just a standard application where you would put in under the category that you're applying for GPAC for the tribal representation position. Then that item would then get added to a Board of Supervisors meeting so they could consider appointing you.
Okay, so that's 707-263-2580.
Exactly.
And who do I speak to?
Anybody who answers that phone is going to be able to help you out.
Thank you so much for your information. I appreciate it. Have a
My
wonderful
pleasure,
day.
and thank you for the question.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, next hand in the Zoom room, please.
Good morning, planning commissioners. My name is Betsy Kahn.
Good morning, Betsy. We can hear you.
I'm a resident in Upper Lake, and I was a participant in the 2008 general plan for several years, but I was not able to participate in the area plan for Upper Lake and Nice. I have 4 or 5 comments to make. First of all, I wanted to ask you, do you have recordings or documentation about the scoping meetings, which I was not aware of? I'd like to know what that results were. Secondly, the formation of area plan committees is extremely important, and the designated 8 areas are themselves outdated. And I understand that the Community Development Department is not interested in specifying. It says I'm going to be cut off in 4 seconds. I don't know what that means. Specifying these areas that are now largely different than those that were constructed originally. So I wonder if you would consider creating special study plans, special study areas as afforded by the Office of Planning and Research guidelines for general plans, and forming those committees with members of the business community, the education, mental health, seniors, etc. And then lastly, I want to know if you're including the agencies that own over 50% of the land in this county, most of it being the Bureau of Land Management and the U.S. Forest Service, because they have a tremendous impact on our areas, and especially where it comes to the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, which I noticed was not one of the documents listed as being included in the integration of the general plan. The last thing I want to say is that to Commissioner Hess, I had this conversation with Mrs. Turner at the Board of Supervisors meeting. The general plan establishes policies, goals, and actions, and then the area plans identify the issues and the needs in those areas for those actions, and those are the important parts. The final action that's taken is the updating of the zoning ordinance, which you've heard is the tool for regulating development or changes in those areas, but there needs to be a lot more understanding of those communities to begin with, to understand what the general plan should identify as implementation of the general plan, not just a passive document that says this is the policy, because those are very asynchronous right now with the general plan. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
I just wanted to also add that Ms. Kahn is our Senior Support Services representative on the General Plan Advisory Committee, and we are very fortunate to have her.
Excellent. Thank you. Is there any other hands in the Zoom room?
Margot, please state your first and last name, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Margot Kambara. I have a few questions concerning the outreach plan. So how is input going to be weighed? Will GPAC be given more weight than the local area plan input in the town halls? And then the same with the stakeholder focus group. So how does that work? And then my other question is, what about transparency for any communications with the stakeholder focus group? Will there be minutes, summary of the session? Also, will the participants be identified? Thank you.
Thank you.
In the process of preparing these community vision documents, our goal is to gather all input that we can. It is ultimately up to the Board of Supervisors how that input is weighed. That's my best answer without going off the rails on that one. But additionally, our goal is to ensure the greatest amount of transparency. I don't know if that means we're going to video record every single conversation that we do have, but transparency is one of the core values of this project. I can hand it over to PlaceWorks staff who have a better sort of vision of how these meetings specifically go.
Yeah, I'd be happy to elaborate. We do prefer to record meetings, especially when they're in this kind of a online setting and everything set up to do that. And we typically will post recordings of meetings on the website if that's available, and then separately we typically will post minutes from meetings. So I think for the stakeholder focus groups, as we identify what those topics are, we'll be sharing information on the website about those meetings in advance and after the fact.
Okay.
I have a quick question. So these meetings have to follow the Brown Act, do they not?
The General Plan Advisory Committee is actually an advisory committee, not a standing body. And so they are not Brown Act compliant. However, because those rules are customary in most everything that we do, we are still aiming to have our agendas posted in public places as well as on site, no less than 72 hours ahead of time, follow all of the customary public transparency processes that our community is used to.
Sure.
One of the benefits of flexibility of being an advisory committee versus one of these standing or decision-making bodies is that our voting members will be able to attend a meeting remotely. We won't have to have the quorum of physical on-site. And one of the benefits of that is that it adds a little bit more flexibility for people. You know, we come from all over the county, as you guys know, and so it's I'm thankful that we do have that flexibility possible to enable all of our many GPAC members to be able to attend. Additionally, if I could just take a moment, I didn't really address some of Ms. Khan's questions. So the missing the Community Wildfire Protection Plan was an inadvertent admission. We have been collecting all kinds of documents that are pertinent to gathering the data that we need to go forward, and that is part of them. Federal land ownership, they're not going to be part of our community visioning process, though they still are part of the review process. The boundaries of the local area plans are somewhat flexible, and we will be gathering data and input about those as we go along. Scoping meetings, the scoping meeting that we did have for the NOP was recorded on video as well as live streamed. That will be available on our lakecounty2050.org page. And the formation of local area plan advisory committees, I'm hearing the input and do welcome that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Turner. I hope that covers Ms. Khan's questions. And I believe Margot was she was already done with her comment. So we will go on to the next participant on Zoom that has not spoken yet.
Yeah, my name is Mike Wink, and I'm with CAL FIRE in the Sonoma Lake Napa unit.
Good morning, Mike. We can hear you. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted you to know we could hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to say that we welcome the opportunity to participate in this process with the county leadership staff, with Maria and her team. We have good ongoing relationships, and with the experiences throughout the county over the last almost decade now. We have a lot of things to make sure are included in the updated safety element from lessons learned. And I just wanted to say thank you for starting this multi-year process, and we look forward to participating. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next hand in the Zoom room. Do we have any hands in the Zoom room?
Margot, you please state your first and last name, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Margot Kambara again. I just have a follow-up question. So I understand input for the general plan will be, gathered and actively sought. My question on how will the input be weighed concerns me because it will influence the draft of the general plan. So if all input will be acknowledged, that's fine. But if some groups will be given more weight than others, I think that should be clear at the onset. Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Turner, did you want to respond to that about the Board of Supervisors having the ultimate decision on that?
It is not staff's intention to weigh input more strongly than others. And so that's actually Ms. Kambara, who is also a member of our General Plan Advisory Committee, and I thank her for that. She brings up an interesting point that we really need to emphasize. We're going to do our very best to garner as much input as possible, but we also will heavily rely on residents, constituents of Lake County staying aware and making sure that their voice is heard. So this is a two-part effort, and without that joint commitment, we're going to do our best to not lose any of our input. And additionally, during environmental review, when you make comments to the EIR or something like that, they have to be addressed and collected and specifically retained. So there will be many different opportunities for any member of the community who is interested to have their voice heard during this process, both in community meetings as well as public hearings with the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors.
Okay. Commissioner Fields?
If I could just wrap it up, if you could repeat where citizens can find information about the meetings. I know the Brown Act happened before the internet, and so a lot of us don't use newspapers of general circulation anymore. So if you could just repeat where these notices
Thank you.
are found.
So those who do use the internet, lakecounty2050.org is a very good spot. If you don't want to venture outside of the county website and you're used to using our agendas page, we have created a new category for the General Plan Advisory Committee meetings, and Ruby has already gotten our first agenda with all appropriate documentation uploaded there and available to the public. We will also post agendas on hard copy over in the glass case outside of the Board of Supervisors chambers, where all the non-Board of Supervisors agendas are posted. We will also work with the local area building operators where we're going to house a meeting to make sure that the agendas are posted there as well. And there's more. I will defer to our principal planner.
Good morning. I just wanted to add that we'll also be sending out e-blasts with all of those dates and locations. And I believe our PlaceWorks staff has also, we've been toying around with the idea of even flyers potentially. So, but yeah, we will definitely be sending out an e-blast to our mass list that we have for the general plan.
Okay.
And press release.
Yes.
Okay. How exciting. Public input is still open. Is there any hands in the Zoom room that have not been answered? No? Okay. Anyone wishing to speak on this before I close public comment? Okay, I will close public comment officially, and there's no action to be taken, but we do appreciate the dialogue and the discussion. Yeah, thank you so much. Let's go ahead, showing a time of 10:06. We will take a quick 5-minute break and resume here at 9:10. Thank you. Not a problem. All right. If I could get everybody to take their seats, we will bring up our second timed item today. We are looking at a public hearing for consideration of major use permit UP 20-33 and mitigated negative declaration IS 20-39 for cultivation of 304,710 square feet of outdoor commercial cannabis canopy. Applicant is Melly Louie Farms, located at 8531 High Valley Road, Clear Lake Oaks, APN 006-003-34. And I apologize if I slayed the name on that. Good morning, Trish.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Trish Turner. I'm an assistant planner with the Lake County Community Development Department. And today I'll be presenting major use permit UP 20-33 for Lou Farms with Meili Lou. Today on the agenda, we'll do the permit request, the project scope, site description, project analysis, points of interest, cumulative impacts, recommendations, and conditions. The applicant is present in person here today. The permit request is 7 acres of outdoor canopy area and 1 A-type 13 self-distribution license. The total acreage of the parcel is approximately 160 acres. Here's the vicinity map. North to the parcel is mostly undeveloped. East, there are numerous vacant parcels with one developed with a residence. South is mostly undeveloped, and to the west is mostly undeveloped. The project site is approximately 1 mile to the east of the nearest community growth boundary of the city of Lucerne. The zoning designations for this parcel is general plan and rural lands. The full zoning is rural lands, waterway, scenic combining district. It is located in the Shoreline Communities Area Plan, and it is in Supervisory District number 3. This is the site description. The site is located approximately 7.5 miles from Highway 20. The project parcel has variable topography with a series of ridgelines and valleys. Excuse me. The proposed project location is located in an area that is 0 to 20% slope. Excuse me. Over the course of 4 years since the application was submitted, the applicant has changed the scope of the project. This includes reducing the solar photovoltaic system to power only the well pump and security sheds. This will require building permits from the Building Safety Division. As proposed, the project will incorporate the following: 7 acres of outdoor canopy area proposed located within 7 cultivation areas. Within each of the 7 cultivation areas, there are 4 100-square-foot storm-proof sheds for harvest storage for a total of 28 sheds as proposed. 1 100-square-foot storm-proof shed for pesticide storage for a total of 7, and 1 100-square-foot storm-proof sheds for security equipment for a total of 7 sheds as well. They are proposing 10 5,000-gallon water storage tanks for irrigation and a 5,000-gallon metal water storage tank for fire suppression. An employee parking area with 8 spaces and 1 ADA-compliant space as well. Existing uses. The property is mostly undeveloped. However, it is developed with interior access roads, an existing security gate, perimeter fencing, and 1 groundwater well. And we reviewed regulations for compliance with the Lake County General Plan, the Shoreline Communities Area Plan, the Lake County Zoning Ordinance, and state regulations. The Lake County General Plan policies reviewed were Chapter 3 for land use, Chapter 7 for health and safety, Chapter 8 for noise, and Chapter 11 for water resources. There are no conflicting policies within the general plan and no specific policies addressing commercial cannabis cultivation in the general plan. The project, excuse me, as proposed is for outdoor commercial cannabis cultivation. There are no mapped areas of farmland of local importance or farmlands of statewide importance at the project site. The proposed project is not located within the farmland protection zone, and greenhouses are not required. The applicant has provided a water availability analysis and a drought management plan and is required to adhere to the State Water Resources Control Board cannabis cultivation policy, requiring runoff to be retained on site and mitigating any impacts. The Lake County zoning ordinance, the project is allowable use with a major use permit in RL zone properties per Article 27.11, uses generally permitted. And the CEQA initial study found that the project could cause potential impacts to resources with aesthetics, air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, geology and soils, hazardous and hazardous materials, hydrology and water quality, noise, tribal cultural resources, utilities, and wildfire. A California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA, a mitigated negative declaration is proposed with the CEQA environmental determination for the project. All identified impacts can be reduced to less than significant with mitigation. The public comment period occurred from July 26, 2023 to August 25, 2023. Mitigations are outlined in the staff report attachments 2, the draft conditions of approval, and attachment 4, the draft initial study mitigated negative declaration. AB 52 tribal notification was sent to 11 local tribes on April 9th of 2020. Tribal consultation was not requested. Access. The project property is accessed via High Valley Road, a county-maintained road. A metal gate controls access to the private gravel and native soil surface interior access roads of the project property. Within 1 mile of this proposed project, there is one pending project. Within 3 miles of the project, there are 3 approved projects. The recommendations is to adopt the mitigated negative declaration initial study IS 20-39 for use permit UP 20-33 with findings found in the staff report. Major use permit recommendations, approved use permit 20-33 with the proposed amended conditions of approval and with the findings found in the staff report. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Trish. Do any commissioners have questions for staff before I open it up for public comment? Okay, we'll go ahead and wait. We will, at this time, open it up for public comment. If the applicant wishes to speak, you're more than welcome, or anybody in chambers, you're welcome to speak. Or do we have any hands in the Zoom room? You're welcome to, sorry, let me just take a breath. I have had a lot of coffee today. We're going to take care of who we have in chambers, and then we'll go ahead to the Zoom room. So go ahead and state your first and last name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Mei Li Liu, and I'm applying for this project because I am a believer of this medicine, and I do want to make the medicine as good as possible to serve the people who need it. The reason to being, my mother is 86 years old, and she was used the medicine I bought from a dispensary, and improved Alzheimer. She can walk a little bit more. She can stand up a little bit more, and control. She can remember things that she wasn't able to remember. So I have a passion for this medicine, and I want to make it as good as possible for our communities, our people. And that's my passion. So that's why I have this application turning, even though it's taking a little bit long time, but I still persisted to get at least step into the door to the outdoor only. We have so big a goal. So it's okay, we make medicine, we make a greenhouse, we can compete with the indoors, it will be more economy, not waste too many energy, and I still make the same quality. But in reality, I'm just one person. With my partner, we are not a corporation, have a bunch of money to back it up or do the things. We only have a plan, we have our vision to do it, but we want to do it as beautiful as it can be because our lakeland is beautiful. We want to not disturb our beautiful land. And when we are doing something like that, we don't. It's you know, Trish, we all know how beautiful we're planting. And that property is a virgin land. When we walk on there, if I drop a plastic bag, I will take 5 minutes to chase it and pick it up. So for that purpose, for what we're doing is for our human experience to help the health, but I don't want to destroy our nature. We live in here, how long? Not too much. So we want to preserve the environment for the generation to come. Right, so that's our main goal. We want to do this to help everybody to enjoy our life, but also meantime we preserve the nature, beautiful nature that it will be coming with the next generation. Even the bear, we have deer, and then we have a rabbit. All those things we want them to be still there. You know, because this is their home also. So we need to work with them there. That's the thing. And we'll go through with any concerns. And we hired a specialty people for planning, because I'm not special on this, but we go through with the cities and the counties, California's rules, follows whatever we need. I will provide. We will do our best to provide, to preserve the whole beautiful county.
Excellent. Well, thank you. You can tell that you're very passionate about the land up there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, beautiful. If every night it's a different sunset. The sunset is so beautiful. Oh, actually, that was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I was in the line, the camping, watching, and the lightning.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And that caused the fire, and I recorded the lightning. I was like, that was kind of scary. So that's why I'm also very cautious. Whoever come onto the land, no smoking, no fire, not that the cars have something underneath and it can cause the dry grass to cause on fire. So I'm very, very cautious about the fire, because that's what we don't want to destroy. That's the last thing. So no, positively, it will never happen. Okay? We will do it and protect the nature. It will never happen. Don't even think that way.
Right, don't even think. Well, thank you very much. Did you want to speak as well?
I was coming for support. But
Oh, okay, that's nice of you. If you want to say your first and last name, that's fine. And
yes,
then we all.
my name is Marion Cheshire. Just to reiterate on what she was speaking about, is the passion, and that's what it's all about. My son Cisco was diagnosed with leukemia in 2016, and was admitted in the hospital for 5 months fighting for his life. It terrified me, just as my legacy, in there in the hospital bed at 16, he had prom, girls, his life ahead of him, and then not knowing what was going to happen next. It was so hard for the family to deal with that, and then I had to go sign waivers, not leaving the hospital liable because he had these blood clots, and we weren't sure what was going to happen, and so we were really scared about that. And then signing, and then if something happened, it just was hard for me, So after 5 months, open-minded doctors allowed Cisco to take CBD and THC capsules that I made, which was really amazing because the doctors usually don't allow that because of his depression and feeling like, he wasn't going to get out of there. He started feeling a little better and kind of got out of it, the present moment, and feeling like something was going to go wrong. And after 5 months, they allowed him to come home after they did some tests. And then after 2 weeks, we got the news that he was in remission. At that moment, during the celebration, Cisco came to me to ask to start a delivery service to reach out to other cancer patients and people that have ailments big and small. At that moment, Kizzle was born. We became one of the top 3 delivery services, rated #1 in customer service. We strive to make the best experience. Our slogan is loyalties before royalties. Loyalties to the patient before royalties to our pocket, because it's about a comfort of life. It's not about what you get out of the patient. It's what you can do for the patient. So that's who we are. And ever since then, you know, our passion has been to help cancer patients and to be able to help people that have any ailments. And in reality, we go to the doctor and we're so hypnotized on they know the best for us that we accept, believe, and surrender to whatever they tell us. They plant the seed in our mind, and then we emotionally attach ourselves to the seed, and we make that illness grow with our emotions. So with this medicine, I see the ability to be able to help our patients have a choice and not have to suffer. So with that being said, we found the 2 most important days of our life. You know what they are?
The day you're born and Oh yeah, like your new birthday, I would say. Yeah.
Like it. So the 2 most important days of your life are the day you're born.
Okay.
And the day you find out why.
Oh, I like that.
You find your purpose, you find your passion.
Mm-hmm.
You live your passion. You never work a day in your life because you love what you do.
Exactly.
Most people get a job, they hate the product they sell, they don't like the people they work with, and all day long, the people they work with are pushing their emotional buttons, and they go home mentally, physically, and just exhausted, and they have to start it over and do it the next day. So this work that we do, giving back and you know, helping others, I've never felt more alive than serving other spirits in need. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate you listening. And
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
yeah, you're very welcome.
Appreciate that. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners, and thank you. Commissioners, staff, thank you very much, Ms. Turner. My name's Dan Rush. I'm the Executive Vice President of Labor Resource Management Incorporated. And you've heard the very sincere, very compelling comments from Lou Farms and from the family that they are. Lou Farms also has a professional component, and we are here to guide Lou Farms and our other clients in a direction that serves not only patients, not only consumers, not only the community, but also the workers involved in the farming. So Mei Lee and MK also have a plan. They've agreed to allow us to perform some of the on-the-job training that we're offering in our apprenticeship program. And our apprenticeship program is a state-certified program. It's been in development for about 10 years. And in conjunction with West Cal Academy, also formerly with the United Food and Commercial Workers International Union, some tribes that we also represent. We are looking forward to having this fantastic farm to be able to help train people, certify them, give them dignity, good jobs, and a place in the community. So there's a tremendous amount of sincerity and humility here, but there's also a plan for growth. And so it was a pretty robust plan in the beginning, and that plan is designed to be done in increments as approvals come to the surface. So I'm just here to say thank you for helping Lou Farms and allowing them to get in business and allowing us all to create this good industry, create good jobs, and impact the community as best as we can. And also to the neighbors, LRM, myself, my staff, we're available for any contact, positive, negative, comments, concerns. I'll leave my phone number and email address with Ms. Turner, and we're here to help. And so thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's kind of neat to hear the training that you guys are going to be offering, and it's something to be said for maybe future people to maybe consider. Did you have a comment, Commissioner Fields? Okay. How are we doing in the Zoom room, Ruby? Do we have any hands raised?
Participant Maria, please state your first and last name, and you will have 3 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Those people had 10 minutes. So my name's Maria Kahn, and I'm a resident of High Valley, and we have already experienced weed growth into our valley with a lot of detrimental effects to us. Much of our concern with this particular grow is the volume of traffic that's going to be across our roads because they're going to be operating 6 days a week and have at least 35 extra trips every day in and out. The wildfire safety of this area is extremely high. Our actual valley was spared in the 2018 fires, but that doesn't mean it couldn't come down into our valley the next time it happens. And given that these grows that are all proposed are all up on the hill on the ridge with only really one way in and one way out, which is through our valley floor, it poses a huge risk to us as residents to be able to evacuate in some sort of a natural disaster when you have 35 or whatever vehicles with the winery and all these grows that you're planning on approving coming down off that mountain, and we'll just be sitting in a line waiting to get onto Highway 20, which is difficult at best on a good day today. So those are most of my I have a lot of concerns, but you're obviously going to cut me off soon. I want to actually discuss the direction our county is taking with regards to marijuana, the broader issue of cannabis and the effect it has on the individual, the community, and the county direction in allowing and promoting the use of a drug as a revenue-generating commodity. The recreational use of marijuana distracts the mind from clear thinking and can demotivate the individual from being civically engaged or even personally engaged in their own development as a human being. It can also compound and amplify mental health issues and other drugs being used. Please consider the effects the promotion of marijuana has on our already addicted and distracted public and our county as a whole, unless the goal is to dumb down the population further so they don't fight back. When people are not engaged in their community, their voices are not heard, and they effectively give up their rights to influence the direction of their government. I believe this is what has happened in our country and is one of the reasons that things are as corrupt as they are. It is all of our responsibilities to educate ourselves on issues and voice our support and objections to the directions being taken for our community. Now, I have no problem if people want to grow a plant or 6 that they can cultivate on their own or with limited help. But I have a big problem with out-of-county organizations buying large chunks of land and attempting to install major productions that require fleets of vehicles, daily disruption, and disrespect to bulldoze through our neighborhoods and communities that prefer to be insulated from the industrial effects of big business. My experience is that they pretend to care about the area they affect. They create documents and plans that promise compliance.
If we
then
could
they
just
disregard
wrap
everything
up your
as they
comment,
are left
it's been 3
unchecked
minutes.
to
Thank you.
rape our natural resources, and they cut and run with the money. We had sours just decimate that land. They left animals on that property.
Maria?
Yes, I heard you, but these people had 10 minutes, so I'm not going to end just yet. I appreciate the opportunity to.
Yeah, you could
speak.
just mute her. Thank you, Maria. Can we go on to the next hand, please?
Denise or Dennis, you are now allowed to speak. Please state your first and last name. You will have 3 minutes.
Hello, this is Denise Orpiston Love. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Denise.
Okay, thank you. As a 4th generation tax-paying Lake County resident whose 300-acre ranch is adjacent to this proposed project, I urge you to carefully read and review the comments submitted here by Brian Hall. The extreme wildfire risk is one of the many reasons, if not the greatest reason, to oppose this project. The residents of Lake County and our beautiful county that have suffered so much from wildfires, as well as the first responders and the firefighting personnel who risk their lives to protect us, deserve the due diligence of a thorough review of the many errors and severe risks of this project. Of particular concern is the wildfire risk to the home on the neighboring property 1,000 feet east of the site. If a fire were to break out at the PV system location with the prevailing west winds that come up very high on that ridge, the driveway access to High Valley Road for this property would be blocked in seconds, quote unquote, from Brian Hall's comment. On the other hand, a strong east wind, typical of red flag conditions, would push the fire down to Lucerne. If the fire risk is not enough, please review the many errors in the report. Please review carefully the water depletion of the groundwater for the neighboring properties, what it will do to our already struggling road, and to the potential lack of monitoring of the risks in the future. I work every day with one of the sole purposes of my life, besides being a professor and a wife and a mother, is to guard and protect and continue preserve and steward the land that has been in my family for 80 years adjacent to this property. And I recognize the sincere intentions of the speaker of the proposed project and the appeal to work. But I must note that this could potentially have the possibility of gravely threatening and possibly ruining, property and of the neighboring community. And so I want to thank you for your time, and I respectfully urge you to deny this.
Thank you for your comment. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I'm Michelle Iris, Principal Planner. I just wanted to add a couple of things we meant to say as a part of our staff report, specifically related to the conditions of approval. We submitted a green sheet comment yesterday related to them, but we had two minor changes to them. This would be condition of approval A2 is being added, which reads the permittee shall submit an updated property management plan as necessary to reflect the proposed project prior to cultivation. And the reason for that added condition is previously the project included a rendition that used greenhouses, and that's currently no longer part of the proposed project. However, in the property management plan, there are just a couple sections that have references to that proposal. The remainder of it was reviewed thoroughly by staff, and we can ensure that the rest is accurate and adequate, but we just wanted to clarify that for the record and add that condition of approval prior to cultivation. Additionally, related to cultural and tribal cultural resources, we are clarifying in condition of approval E1 and M1, adding the tribes, plural and in parentheses, so just a grammatical typo there, clarification, and to halt activities in anticipated discovery section within 100 feet. We're just adding that measurement. So those should be noted in the conditions that you received yesterday, but just wanted to note those for the record.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for that. Alrighty. Okay, we have one more hand in the Zoom room.
Participant Donna, please state your first and last name, and you will have 3 minutes.
Donna Makowitz. I'm a resident of Clear Lake Oaks, and I have a lot of concerns about this project as presented. The study, especially the biological study done in 2020, was in a time of drought. I bet if you went up there right now, which I'd love to do a drone flyover visit, you'd probably find that the Class 3 watercourse and the emergent wetlands, of which there are 3 of them, have probably merged. The area is very rich in biological resources, like the was mentioned by the owner, but it's interesting also to put this here when it's so beautiful as it is. And if I'm not mistaken, the last sighting of spotted owl was just very close up there on High Valley. And that's something to consider also. And thank you for letting me comment.
Thank you for your comment, Donna. No other hands in the Zoom room. Nobody else wishing to speak in chambers. We will go ahead and officially close public comment. and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Hess.
I have a question for staff. And I know we only regulate cannabis, and so there's no reason you would necessarily have done a deep dive on the Brassfield winery operation, but do you have any idea in terms of relative size of Brassfield, its operations, its vehicle traffic versus the proposed amount of traffic and number of employees for this project? And I ask that because it sounds to me like Brassfield does do a lot of business on that road, but that is not the responsibility of the applicants. And it also sounds like in 2021, there was some good repair work done on the roads, which one of the green sheets describes as having been destroyed by PG&E. Again, that has nothing to do with this applicant and the amount of traffic or impact it might have.
Yeah, that's correct. Staff has reviewed the project specifically related to the project itself. I do not know those numbers for Brassfield, but that wouldn't particularly be something that we would analyze as a part of this proposal unless there were, a significant amount of traffic being added by their proposed project, for example, or something that would result, in like a cumulative impact.
Okay, Commissioner Fields?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Trish. These reports are just getting better, so thank you. I had a couple questions. I don't know who could answer this, but a 6-foot fence is proposed. I think deer can clear 6-foot fence. Does anyone know whether a deer can clear 6-foot fence?
Not sure.
Yes. I'm sure it could.
I'm concerned. I know it's funny, but I'm actually concerned about the deer coming in and having some snacks and not being able to clear the fence on the way out. In many of these hydrology reports, the numbers that are given to the hydrologist, I feel, are inaccurate. I'm a farmer. I grow pears. I know that the studies that have been done on cannabis use the number 6 gallons per day per plant for outdoor grows. You're suggesting you're going to only have 500 plants per acre. That may be true. I don't feel that I can keep addressing this every single meeting, so I've asked our Board of Supervisors to take it on at an ordinance level. And I wanted to know whether the surveyor's concerns were addressed. I saw in the agency comments that he felt that the 1,000-foot barrier, have any surveys been done up there to establish where exactly the property lines are? And I don't know if this is a question for staff or for the applicant, but I think it's relevant.
Yeah, sort of related to that, I know the site plan was submitted and prepared by a qualified design professional, and then as a part of the building permit process, of course, those plans would be engineered and stamped. I don't know if the applicant has anything to add, but I'll defer to them.
Okay. Have you had any surveys, formal surveys done up there? Have you had a surveyor come up and identify the property boundaries, the property corners?
Oh, no.
No? Okay.
I don't have the deed, so I mean,
Right, okay. It's a concern. I don't think that it would, it's material enough to kill the project. I also wanted to say that we've heard from many members of the public, and I hear what they're saying, and I agree with most of them, but I feel that we're here today to evaluate whether this project falls under the ordinance guidelines. So people who have concerns need to address the Board of Supervisors, which is the legislative body that defines the ordinance. So those are all my concerns and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Field. Commissioner Brown, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I do. I have a lot of concerns, and not so much related to the applicant, but the package of this project. And I'm going to do my best to address it in the most respectful manner. one of the concerns I have is if you go to the property management plan and you look at the tribal cultural resources plan, there's no attachment to review what that plan is going to be. That's the one issue with the applicant that they might be able to answer. But if you go to Cultural Resource Evaluation Appendix P, the Cultural Resource Report is actually in this document. And so I was able to review this document, and the information in this document doesn't match the conditions, the mitigation conditions. And so my concern again is always that this area seems to not be well understood. And when it comes to our initial study, we have the record search, no culture sites have been recorded within 1 mile, but also it goes to say that the Native American Heritage Commission was contacted, the Sacred Lands file, and sacred sites have been identified, recorded in the general area, but doesn't provide any background. So how do those sacred sites connect to this land use, and to this project specific? That's a concern. So is it going to be an aesthetic concern? Is it going to be a concern for use of that land? And then we go on to say, and I've questioned this before, that tribal cultural resources are defined in Public Resource Code, section 21074, that there's no tribal cultural resources. And the archaeological report clearly identifies tribal cultural resources. There's pictures of an item that was found in the report. And so this is alarming to me that this information has continued to be missed and not evaluated properly. And so I'm trying to think about how to support this project going forward, because I don't feel like this is an issue the applicant created. When I look at this report and I go through the archaeological report, which has been made public, there's a lot of things that don't match. And I brought this up previously, the timing of these reports are critical. And so the pictures in the reports show the archaeologist standing in knee-deep grass, which clearly obstructs the view of the land. And so how do we get a proper cultural resource evaluation when the land is obstructed in that fashion? So the timing of these reports are continuously an issue. So they're not being done in a time where the land naturally is exposed, the natural surface of the land. And so the archaeological report says that rodent holes were inspected to the best of their ability. But this is why we get that we don't know. We can't say clearly that there's not going to be a cultural resource impact. And so relying on the archaeological report to say that there's no tribal cultural resources is not the place for that. The archaeologist is not trained in tribal cultural resources to identify or speak on those tribal cultural resources. And so, but with a picture of a tribal cultural resource in the report, it clearly tells me there's stuff on this land. And so I cannot value these cultural mitigation measures. And so when I look at this, the information is misleading. And so I don't know how we remedy this. I don't know where we're going with the continuous training for our staff members so that we are knowledgeable to our best ability of how we should look at this. What is a tribal cultural resource? What is an archaeological resource? And so these are the concerns that, again, have been raised and are coming to being exposed again. And so these are, again, without seeing this, I would take at face value what's being said here. But the report clearly doesn't say that. And so that's my concern with the cultural resource component. And weighing in with the other areas, I think we're pretty clear in what we need to review as a part of this application. But then at the same time, if this part of the information is not accurate, where else are there errors? And so that's my concern. And again, that doesn't reflect the applicant. And so I'm really in a place where I don't feel like I can support this project moving forward today. And that's where I'm at. And so I don't know how we move forward. I don't know how we fix and address this issue. And so I know we said there was no tribal involvement, no consultation requested. I did speak to the TIPO of the Elam tribe, who said he had requested consultation after the initial request for review went out. So at what point are we going to reopen consultation, or what is our policy that the window came and closed? Do we have the discretion to open tribal consultation? And so those are things, again, that I don't know. I can't say at this point. So I'm going to defer to anybody who can provide me some feedback and some answers.
I think we definitely hear your concerns, and I think we can put maybe our minds together and figure out how we can at least alleviate or help him, whatever we can do to make it to where.
I have a question. I just have a quick question for my colleague before I can see Nicole's brain is turning.
Yes, the wheels are turning.
But I think staff is working really hard and reaching out to the tribes to get consultation. How maybe if my colleague has any ideas on how we can do that better. How can we engage this resource more effectively?
Yeah, I think the channel of the noticing is the proper channel.
Sure.
But at what point, if that notice is not responded to by the tribe and a response does come, do we initiate consultation, or do we say no, like you missed your time to comment? And so I don't know if that's at the discretion of our planners. I don't know if that's policy in-house. So those are the things that I have to consider as well. And so this is what I was told by the TIPO of Elam. I don't have anything, or nothing was provided to me other than a verbal that I called and I said I requested consultation. I don't know if you received that call, so those are other things that, again, on the other side is why I'm asking. And so as we move forward, I think that the scope of the timing of the project, 4 years, there's time to, again, maybe inquire, maybe send another request for consultation, or I don't know exactly what. I think we're meeting our legal obligation, but what more do we do in terms of due diligence is what I'm thinking, not only from staff, but from the tribes themselves.
I understand the concern, and yes, the CEQA requirements and state law requirements that information related to tribal cultural resources maintain confidential. I understand the frustration that creates. I also understand the reason for the need to keep confidentiality. I do ask going forward that if you ever, any of you, receive anything that should be confidential, you immediately notify staff so that we can claw it back, because we don't want to compound the problem of it being inadvertently attached to a document by releasing it in a public meeting. However, to answer your question, Commissioner, the consultation process is not a one-time event. It's not a single meeting. It has a series of notices at the beginning of the project. There's a triggering point at which the county is to notify tribes. The tribes do have a time frame in which to respond back. I think, if I remember correctly, that should be in writing. That the request should be in writing. I think that staff, and Mireya can speak more thoroughly to staff's process, but I think staff does send the notice in a form that should be relatively easy to respond to, like email. And that kicks off the consultation, and a consultation by definition is any and all communications and interactions with the tribes through the course of the evaluation of the project. And the county, any lead agency, relies very heavily on the experts and the resource experts that they reach out to, and that's not true just for tribes, but that's true for any fire, certain water resources, certain, animals and wildlife and plants. They can't be experts on everything, any lead agency. So we rely heavily on those who are. And in this instance, for tribal cultural resources, the experts are the tribes. And if we can only recommend, staff can only recommend a decision based on the record before them. And your commission can only make a decision on the record before you. And under CEQA, those decisions need to be based on substantial evidence in the record. And so if we're recommending a particular kind of mitigation, it's because staff has analyzed the information in the record and determined that there's substantial evidence in the record to support that recommendation. And so in order to broaden those mitigations, there needs to be evidence in the record that would support broader mitigations. I haven't seen the report, but the analysis itself is not just that there are resources within the general vicinity. The analysis are there resources, and this is true for any resource, not just cultural resources. The analysis is that resource likely to be or identified in that area, and will that resource in the project area, and will it be impacted or will it be impacted by the project? So the fact that there may be, for example, half a mile away or 2 miles away, resources identified may not be in the analysis persuasive enough to indicate that there will be resources on site. However, it is considered, it's part of the evidence, and it's weighed by it's weighed by those who analyze it, and it's used as a way to support any mitigation that comes in. In order to have a complete analysis, the resource expert needs to be there, needs to be able to participate, and needs to actually participate in that conversation. So it is critical that tribes participate in these discussions, because the county has a limit as to what they can do. They have to base their decision on the record itself and the evidence they're able to gather. And right now, if no tribe responds, then the limit is we contact the state resources that maintain the records for these resources. We contact an archaeologist that meets certain criteria as far as understanding what to look for and how to search for it, and provide an analysis and a report. We can certainly look at those criteria, for behind the criteria for qualifications for a cultural an archaeologist doing a study, or understanding what the policies or procedures are in an industry for performing those studies, those investigations, and then writing a study. However, the county is limited to those things if the tribes do not participate. I will tell you that that County Council is currently working on, has been for a bit of time, working with a number of tribes on trying to draft something akin to an MOU that would address county policy on just sort of generally overall on AB 52 consultation. So we are working on that, and that could potentially include a number of things, like, for example, jointly agreed upon recommended language for mitigations when there is minimal information and data in the record. So agreed upon language that may apply in those instances if the record shows that there may be resources. But there was, for example, for whatever reason, no participation from a tribe, or the tribe didn't have any information to participate to impart about that particular project area, that we would take into consideration the history of the entire county and the fact that there may be resources on site in various locations that may not be known by anyone. But that is not. But that's in its sort of nascent drafting. So right now we're working with what we do have. We do have some language that has been reviewed to apply in certain circumstances when there's likely to be, or, for example, when a site has not been disturbed either ever or in a very long time, or it hasn't been disturbed to the depth that the project is proposing, various conditions come up. And again, it's each project is unique in its time and place, and it has to be considered in its uniqueness with all of the facts and circumstances that surround it. It is critical that the tribes participate in the AB 52 consultation. And that consultation goes all the way up to just before the decision. And it is officially ended in writing. And so prior to that official end in writing, in theory, if the tribe had requested consultation at the start, they could participate all the way up to that, if they choose, they could participate all the way up to that end. You are correct. CEQA does, after the 30-day initial request for consultation, the county is not obligated under CEQA to hold a consultation with the tribe, with any tribes. However, I don't think it's a lost cause after 30 days. I think that if any tribes reach out about a project, I think Mireya and her department would be happy to receive any information. And as always, anybody can participate in the hearings. Anybody can contribute by submitting comments, either in person, in writing, digitally, for any of the projects. So even if consultation has been held, tribes can still participate in those ways as well. I hope I answered your question.
It does, and this is the complicated, there's complication in all of this. And so I think the best practices, we always refer to best practices in everything. And so when I hear that, my mind is telling me there's best practices in all parts of this. But if it's not being considered in the cultural resource aspect, tribal cultural resource aspect, then we need to consider that. And so the timing of this wasn't the best timing. And I just wanted to share this to clarify. I went through my last part of the review yesterday. I saw the report. I reached out to the District 3 supervisor and called, texted, and left a message saying, hey, I have some concerns. He eventually got back to me at about 4:50 maybe. He was in a meeting, the rural counties meeting or something he was attending in Sacramento. And so by the time we finished our conversation, it was about after 5. And so there was really nothing for me to do in terms of who do I reach out to after 5. And so, yeah, and so that's what happened. And so this is, again, not something that I feel is intentional, but it's a pattern that's happening. And it's a pattern that's been a part of the history between the county, these boards, and tribes. And so at some point, there has to be a way to remedy. And so last time I'm thinking about how do we remedy this? And my mind is still trying to figure out how do we do this? Because if errors are made, we acknowledge it, and then we find a way to move forward. And so that's the part of not knowing or feeling comfortable with moving forward at this point, and so that's just how I feel based off of the information I reviewed, taking into consideration some of the comments, and trying to understand what comments are relevant. There's a lot of emotions in some of the comments, and trying to filter through all of that to come to the best decision based off of the information. And so in my mind, if a TIPO is calling to say, hey, I want to consult, does that get written down? Is there a record of that? And if so, no decision has been made, as if that's what we're referring to, so consultation could have went on this past week up into today. And so that's what I'm not, again, understanding, because I don't have all of the parts of that. That was brought to my attention, and that's why I'm asking today.
Consultation continues until it's ended in writing by one or both parties. And that could potentially go up to just before the meeting, but I don't think that that's generally practical, because if there is consultation going on up to that point, there may be changes to the item. Not to say that that's a reason not to do consultation, but it's generally, I think that staff tries to avoid that. But it goes until there is a written ending to it by one or both parties.
What do you think, would it be helpful to kick it down the road for a couple weeks? Do you think you'd feel more comfortable? Do you think we could get the consultation that is needed in that time?
I think it's possible, but I don't know if, again, I'm just going off of what I was told by the TIPO, and he did mention Trish's name that he had called, and so that's what I have. Now, I don't know if there's a record of that call. I don't know if that call was received by Trish or it was a voicemail. I don't know. And so that's the part of thinking that, yeah, maybe more time is going to be the answer to this, to engage again. And if there is a request, which I can't confirm from the tribe, I would think that would be best at this point.
Staff would be happy to take the time to do that proper review. We don't have any record of the TIPO reaching out to us yet, but we'll do a deeper dive. Additionally, I think that Supervisor Crandall, he did convey sort of your message, not a lot of detail, but hopefully he gave you all the phone numbers that I have, because while we do have community development staff that is paid by the hour and I send them home at 5 so they can live their lives, I'm on salary, and your comments are valuable and important, and even if they're late, please reach out. I will always welcome them.
I will definitely take that into consideration, and I believe he was supposed to provide me your number, and he didn't text back.
Then I will make sure you have it before you leave.
Well, that being said,
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just really quickly, again, if any time in the future you do have a tribal member that reaches out and says, hey, I tried to contact the county and it just didn't go through, definitely. That is, if you include that, if you share that with the commission during the hearing, and you can also always use that as evidence to weigh whether or not you want to ask for, recommend a continuance or disapprove a project or approve a project. It's certainly something, as long as you share that communication with the commission. You can say, look, I've had this bit of information come my way, here's what it is, and for that reason I'm recommending we do X, and then you can certainly recommend a continuance on other items in the future if you choose.
Okay, so for clarification, that wouldn't be done in an email thread to all the commissioners?
No, the reason I'm suggesting you do it, because I don't want you to create a meeting inadvertently.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so what you would do is you would then bring it up. You can share it with staff if there's an email, and you can ask staff to send it to all the commissioners, and then bring it up during the meeting to say, hey, look, you should have received this email. My understanding is that there was a tribe who wanted to have a consultation, and it just, for whatever reason, didn't occur. I'm recommending that we continue, for example, this, whatever your recommendation is, but if you're recommending to continue, and then they can take into consideration that evidence as well, and then they could make a decision as whether or not they want to support a continuance to see a consultation with that particular tribal community happen before they make a decision.
Okay.
Madam Chair, having heard all of this, I would think the path forward for today is continuance. Our colleague has been consistent and eloquent on these issues for a few years now. And there are flaws in every report, perhaps. But the point you raised today, Commissioner, is the wall I always hit. You bring up legitimate general process points and questions, and yet it's the fate of this one applicant hanging in the balance, and it's not necessarily a problem created by the applicant. So I would be uncomfortable denying this project today, but based on your excellent comments, I would support a continuance.
Commissioner Field, if you want to chime in.
As would I.
And I do feel like we are in a consensus, and please, applicant and team, understand, what my colleague did say. We, based on how we are feeling, it's not necessarily the application itself or anything like that. It's just a little bit of procedural housekeeping type of loose ends that we would like to button up. So I believe we are in a consensus to go ahead and continue this item with a date uncertain at this time.
I would like to go ahead and make it a date certain.
Oh, you would like a date?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I do have
Go ahead.
one additional.
Commissioner Brown?
And what I did relay to Supervisor Crandall, and so I haven't, in my last communication with staff about access to cultural resource reports, the thread was clearly outlined, and I recall council said at one time that possibly a redacted report could be provided. And so what I had said to Commissioner Crandall was I wasn't sure, based off of my review of the report that was in there, that there wasn't any sensitive information that needed protection. That was just my opinion of what I read. But I don't know who makes that determination of this is culturally sensitive information and it has to be kept out of the public view. So that's one other comment that I did have in the conversation. And so that was my thought. Well, maybe this is why. Maybe that's why it's there. I don't know. That's just me speculating and guessing too at the same time.
Yeah, I think the line for that is determined by parties not in the room. It's determined by courts and the legislature, and it would be an analysis that I have not done for today. However, the baseline, I guess you might say, is any information that would lead to identifying what cultural resources may be present or impacted and where they are. So identifying them and locating them. So any information that leads to that, because the goal ultimately is to protect the resources from theft or damage or destruction by otherwise by the general public who may learn about them. So that's sort of the general baseline, is any identifying information that would lead to what the resource is and where it's located.
Okay.
But if you'd like more detail, I can certainly, if your commission would like more detail, I can certainly look that up. But I think that would, I could provide you with that information, but I could also provide it to staff, and then they can use it to guide their redaction of reports, and then you don't have to get mired in the case law. But that's up to you.
The only other thing I would add is that at the staff level, we do rely on those cultural and archaeological reports that are submitted. So, for example, in this case, I won't divulge any more information that we shouldn't hear, but it was determined that what was found is not significant cultural resources under the CEQA codes. So staff took that and then put that in the staff report in the initial study. I understand that, to the tribal cultural resources are separate and different, and that's where we would use the AB 52 consultation. But as far as the information in the initial study and the staff report, that is consistent with what the cultural report says. But I certainly appreciate all of your comments.
Yeah, and the recommendation that I would make is to not include it in the tribal cultural resource section. And because once it goes there, then it's outside of its boundary. And so when I look at it and I see it in the tribal cultural resource section, it's saying the archaeologist is making that determination.
Yeah.
And that's where the information is coming from. And the archaeologists, majority of them will tell you, I don't have expertise and I won't make recommendations in that area.
Yeah.
And so that's another part of just working this and knowing this for years. It's become a issue. That's why there's tribal cultural resources today. It might not be significant to the scientific community, but it can be significant to the tribe.
Absolutely.
And so that's why the tribe's input is important.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to add, if I could, I mentioned earlier a number of things, no single one of which I feel should kill this project. But I'd like some answers if we're going to be able to buy a couple of weeks here. I believe it was Donna on Zoom who mentioned that the evaluation of biological resources was done during the drought, and there's some wetlands that might now be in a different condition. I'd really love to explore that.
We could do like a site visit?
A site visit would be awesome if we could figure that out, or perhaps invite the Audubon people up on a tour or something like that. I'm not sure what the proper process is. I'm also just worried about those deer. So considering all these minor issues, as well as Commissioner Brown's concerns, I would like to make a motion that we continue this item to the March 28th meeting.
Does that work for you, Director Turner?
That would be a very good start. If we're unable to fulfill it, we can give you an update at that time, if Ruby wouldn't mind giving us a time for that.
9:35. So we were, the motion on the floor is a continuance of this application until March 28th, which would be our next Planning Commission hearing. And we are going to set it for a time of 9:30. So during this time, staff will go ahead and go back over our concerns with the tribal resources, cultural resources, the Audubon Society that had chimed in about the report that was done during a drought. Staff will give you guys some direction on what they would like to just go through before you guys bring it back to us in 2 weeks. So the motion on the floor is the continuance. We need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. So go ahead and talk to your planner, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. We appreciate your time. Thank you. And I will turn it over to the Director Turner again for any staff updates, timed news, all the fun stuff.
Totally cool stuff happening
everywhere.
Okay, so in the building division, we do have additional staff that is currently testing for a variety of certifications.
Cool.
I will let you know as soon as they pass them.
No pressure.
Right? In planning, the Maha-Gwinnett Valley project is coming in. You will see the amendment to the indemnification agreement on a future board meeting, hopefully soon, depending on how quickly I can get it uploaded. But things are rolling, so we're adding that on as well.
Excellent, because you have other, because there's so much more room.
It's great that we're all just kind of sitting around waiting for stuff to do.
I do have a question. Since, I don't know if it's actually a meeting question, but is there any type of direction or rules or procedure that you can give me being in a jurisdiction or in my district where I have an incorporated other governing body with the city of Lakeport? So are they going to be doing their own GPAC and like their own general plan meeting for the whole area, and like the city of Lakeport will have their own, and then the district for the whole entire area of Lakeport?
That's a great question.
Where do I fit, I guess is my question.
Sure, I can say it. Okay.
Sorry. And, of course, Commissioner Chavez isn't here, but I can relay the information to him if needed for the city of Clear Lake as well.
So incorporated cities have their own timelines and their own responsibilities for those planning documents. We do have a number of areas where our updates are regional, like our climate vulnerability analysis and the countywide evacuation plan. Those we're all doing together, but the purpose of that, or the benefit of that, is that the cities can use it in their own planning processes. So I don't know what they're doing, but feel free to inquire, because you are a constituent of the city of Lakeport.
Yeah, and I had my ear in on their, they updated their housing element yesterday, and they had a couple other updates for the city of Lakeport Planning Commission.
Cool. I'll have to check that out.
So, yeah, I zoomed in on that, but I just wanted to make sure that we're, that it is very gray for me to know where to step and where not to step. So, thank you for that.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the question.
Nicole?
Yeah, if we're done with the staff the update?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to introduce our newest addition to the County Council's office. Her name is Pamela Sandberg, and she'll be hanging around. She won't be taking over Planning Commission or anything, I'm keeping that. But should you see her either filling in or just wandering around the halls, lost?
Okay, welcome.
Join her back into our office.
Thank you. Happy to have you. Okay, any other questions for Director Turner or for staff? Okay.
I did just send my cell phone numbers to all of you. It
Okay.
would be very helpful if you would send me a text so I can identify who you are and add you to my address book, because I don't always answer numbers that I don't know.
Oh, same.
Thanks.
Okay. We will go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 10:23. Thank you.